This video is an attempt to demonstrate how everything that could be called a problem that comes up in life is always based on concepts and basically thoughts that happen. So the main, you could say the main trouble in life is essentially what about me? It could be traced back to, well, what about me? And of course, non-duality is all about exposing the falseness of this me, this separate individual that could have a problem or anything. So it's quite shocking to see that all of this stuff is just thoughts. Really, it's just language that arises. But because of maybe habitual a habitual tendency, we focus in on these sort of linguistic ideas and these conceptual frameworks and become very enamored by them. We're very quick to hang on to these ideas. So I mean, the main concern as a so-called spiritual seeker is death. One of them, anyway. What happens to me when I die? You know, what's going to happen to me when I die? But as a spiritual person, what happens is there can be very it can be very easy to say, well, I am an immortal spirit. So when this body dies, I will continue because I am a sort of timeless, immortal being of some sort. And then there's a lot of concepts about what that is. You know, I'm not this body, I'm a sort of ephemeral being that floats. You know, I'm not this body, I'm this other entity that's sort of dwelling inside the body somewhere or is above the body or and it's an identification that appears in awareness which doesn't change. So as a sort of religious person or spiritual person, I had an idea that I as an entity would continue after this body died into another realm or universe, and I would continue as a separate entity. And then I had concepts and imaginary pictures of what this self is or would be later. So again, it brings in this idea of time and becoming, because I'm going to become sort of this other entity that I'm not right now. So I'm not this yet, but I will become this when this body dies or when this spiritual um, threshold has been achieved. So that's conceptual, and the main point of this is to point out that this is all just concepts and they're not real by any stretch of the word because they're always in flux, they're changing. So if someone asks me, well, who am I? You know, find out who you are. And then I come up with a new concept. So like, okay, I'm not Mike Thielmann. I'm not this body here. I'm something beyond. So now I'm identifying myself as another image. So prior to that, I identified myself as maybe this face or a feeling of energy in the body. But then when I become a spiritual person, I identify with different pictures and moving images and words based on the idea that I'm beyond this body in some way. But of course, those ideas just change too, and they're not constant or stable. So the main thing is to clarify, well, what am I always? What's the constant in all of this? What's that which never changes and is always on, so to speak? It's always the same. It's always still and it doesn't move because the mind or concepts are always moving and changing and subject to a lot of fluctuation and revision. But there's always awareness of that, of the concepts changing and the feelings associated with them. And it's continuous that the awareness is always the same. It's not that it doesn't blink in and out or something, or it doesn't change form. It's not form based. It's very difficult to talk about. It's because it's so obvious. So it's like usually the focus is in these concepts and it's me. You know, there's this me notion. Whether the me notion is a mortal being called a body mind or an immortal concept called, well, that's an oxymoron right there, an immortal concept. but the idea of an immortal being. So, but there's still awareness of these concepts. So this is really about sort of a shift out of these concepts into sort of the actuality of being, which is actual in the sense that it doesn't rely on secondhand concepts, because all the concepts are derived from somewhere else. Because I learned who I was from someone else. Someone said, "Oh, hey, Mike, you're not really this body. You're really this other being, sort of an angelic being or something. And, here's what it is. I can't really say what it is, but here's qualities of it, maybe." And then so the mind, "Oh, okay, that's what I am. So another I, notion of I. So I am not this person. I am this being of light or whatever." But see, this I am notion, this concept, and also the feeling of contraction. So it's like I am sort of something in here. I'm something here. I am an entity of some kind, whether it be a person or a sort of spiritualized sort of person or non-person or being of light. It really doesn't matter because it's all changing concepts. In a dream at night, there can be all kinds of identities happening, dragons or, you know, angels or whatever it is. But there's always awareness of whatever it is, whatever concepts that arise. Whether they're fanciful or mundane, it doesn't matter. So this is really about seeing that aspect. And then in seeing that there's only awareness, which doesn't change, then all the concepts can just be seen as concepts instead of self-imbued concepts. So thoughts about a me. Charlie Hay says, there's no suffering in thoughts, it's only thoughts about me. Or something, that's to paraphrase. So thinking about me, I'm thinking about myself because I've taken myself to be an object, and then there's other objects called thoughts that are about this primary object called me. But there's awareness of that whole mechanism. So it's called self-obsession, you could say. So I'm thinking about myself and wondering who I am and trying to define myself and get myself right without knowing exactly what this I or self is. So I don't know what this I is. See, I don't know what the I is. So it's really about clarifying what this I or me notion points to. What thing is it? What thing am I? And the mind isn't real, or isn't the right tool for the job in that sense, because the mind is an appearance. I say the mind isn't real, it's because it's just thoughts. One thought, you could say. It's one thought right now. And that's it. And then there's another thought that says the mind, or this is my mind thinking. But these are just singular bubbles, you could say, that arise. They're just ephemeral. They don't have really any substance. The only power they have is the investment, the idea of a self that's invested in it, and who's taking it all into itself and making it real. My thoughts, my important thoughts about important me. So self-importance. I'm self-involved. I'm involved in thinking about myself because I need to get myself right. I'm the important thing that's happening right now. I'm what's important at any given time because I'm me. And see, that's when the trouble begins, because I'm giving myself this extra task of trying to get myself right. So, this body just responds to its environment. But if there's the notion of a me in there, then it's almost like a schizophrenia in that I'm trying to live in another world called my journey or my preoccupation with myself or something, which has nothing to do with what's happening. So it's really very simple in just seeing what is. It's a seeing that what is empty of separation or separate selfhood. And, this may take investigation, and that's fine.